shouldn't we all be out playing golf on a night tonight?
We could, but they don't want to see me out there playing golf.
I don't play, so I would be dangerous.
I play, but I'm not any good at it, so I wouldn't be that far behind.
You know what they say, if you want to get good at it, you got to play regularly.
That's
Not once
it.
Yeah, I should take a lesson from a pro. How are you, Jim? You're on mute, which is okay.
Sebi,
Hey, Sebi, how are you?
how you doing? Good, good. How are you, Arash?
Good, nice to see you.
Yeah, same here. Oh, boy.
Hey, Jim, when I turn it over to questions, do you want to go first? Or you're on mute, by the way.
Oh, no, no, let the rest of the guys go first.
All right.
Don't forget, I'm Sebi.
No, I was talking to Jim.
Oh,
I can
Jim,
see him
yeah,
on-
yeah.
yeah.
Hi. Oh, he's on?
He's
Jim's
on.
All right,
He's the
Okay.
quiet one.
yeah.
You can unmute yourself, right? I just want to make sure it works. You're not unmuted. Okay.
Yeah.
You're unmuted now.
Yes, I know. I know. I was doing something. I was actually doing something else.
Oh, good, good. I just sometimes worry, once we had a meeting, council meeting, and somebody couldn't just unmute, and just panicked a little bit, thinking that perhaps you have the same.
Got it. Is it just us on this right now?
Yeah, but you can see we got 8 people. We got a few more minutes. People don't join till like 6
Jerry,
o'clock.
all right, so you realize this was a boiler, like you can hear me, correct? You can hear me?
Yeah, I
Hello?
can hear you.
This was boiler, that proposal was boilerplate, right? You realize that?
That's okay. You can ask questions. That's why we're
No,
doing
no,
this.
it was because there's other towns mentioned in there, Northbrook Park, where, you did this proposal and nobody reviewed it. Right? We're a city, we're not a city, we're a town.
Yeah, I know
I
that.
mean, these are stupid little things, but I mean, if somebody's gonna make a presentation,
Yeah.
I guess 20 grand is not 20 grand, I don't know,
Yeah.
Kate, what do you think? It's not what it
I
used
would-
to be.
I would save those comments for later, though.
Yeah, I will.
Hey, congratulations on your election to president. I don't know if she can hear me.
Kate, yeah,
Yeah, she can hear you.
Yeah,
I can hear you. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
everybody.
yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. Arose, do you want me to, I think I can do the recording. Do you want me to do the recording for you?
Try it if you can. Otherwise, I'll record it from here.
I have to have permission.
How about I record it?
Okay.
I think it's recording already. It says pause recording, stop recording. So it is recording. I wish I could figure out where it says it's recording. Hmm.
In the top left-hand corner.
Ah, it is recording. So I remember when I set it up, I was not sure who's going to be there. So I tried to automate as much as possible. I said, record upon
Entry.
starting, and also everyone was muted when they came in.
Okay. All right.
So,
And you got my email about Donna?
no, I haven't. What?
All right, you may
Donna.
want to, Yeah, Donna Beach, you may want to announce at the beginning of the meeting that she's up in Hartford, they're in session. So she probably will not be able to attend the meeting
Okay,
tonight.
that's okay. She wants me to say something about it? No, right? They're not taking attendance. It's okay.
We can make a note of it in the minutes. Dana will hear
Yeah.
it. Thanks.
Okay. I don't see Dana. She can.
I can always send her the recording if something happens.
Yeah, she's very good at that way.
Yeah. She's excellent.
Close this. Get some light. It's in my face. Hey, Kate, for the approval of the minutes, rather than trying to unmute everyone, can I ask them to just raise their hand or something? That's good enough, right?
Yes, that will be fine. I
Yeah.
can make note of it.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor.
There we go.
Yeah, I had it set up so that everyone's on mute when you come in.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm unmuted now.
I'll meet you again. You can unmute anytime, you know that, right?
I'm on. I know.
Yeah. I'm just trying to prevent the feedback loop.
The feedback, yeah, I get it. So we got our audience of citizens. Okay.
I don't know where everybody else is.
I don't know. Hope they are, they didn't cancel it for lack of interest. I don't know. I hope not. Oh, it's almost 6, right?
Yeah, we'll give a couple of minutes.
Oh, there's some people joining.
Yeah. Do you want to call the meeting to order and run it, or you want me to do it from this end?
No, I could call it.
Okay.
Let's not mess with the phone because I know what'll happen if I do. Is it 6? Yeah. Okay.
It is,
All right. So
but
we'll
you
wait.
wanna
Let's wait a couple. We'll
just wait a
couple
couple of minutes. I
Yeah,
don't.
wait minutes. Yeah.
Hi, Ed. You must be at Gatherall, Aroshia. You're on mute. I'll unmute. You're on mute for now. We'll start in about a minute.
Roche, this is Peter. I had
Peter.
my personal computer, the town computer wouldn't hook up to the Zoom meeting. So I'll drop it off with Kate again during the week.
All right.
Thanks.
We'll take a look at it. Hi, Dana.
Ready?
Yeah, we can get started, Mr. Mayor.
We get
It's
started, right?
6:01.
So I call this our joint meeting together, special meeting of the Town Council and the Golf Commission in order. And we'll just go ahead and, I know it's an odd location, but we'll go ahead and do we see the flag in back of a row, so we can do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
United
States of
States of
America,
America and to the
The
republic.
Republic,
for which it
for which
stands,
stands
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
yeah,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty and justice for all.
for all.
Thank you all. Now we start with our audience of citizens, and tonight, just for the audience, we're going to have a presentation from the National Golf Foundation. This is the second consultant that we had mentioned that we would talk to, and then what the plan will be is for our next meeting after this, we're not going to have too much discussion tonight, just really get some questions from the Golf Foundation answered. If anyone has questions of their program, and then we'll have another in-person meeting. The next meeting will be in person, hopefully at the high school auditorium like the last one was. But we just wanted to get this part presentation in, and then we'll have an in-person meeting, obviously open to the public, and we'll do some discussion at that meeting on what the way will be forward. So with that, anybody in the audience of citizens want to address this, the joint Town Council and Golf Commission?
Yes. Hi, this is Peter Zaragoza, 158 Elwood. I don't have anything to directly comment, but rather question.
Hi, Peter.
Hey, I'm just wondering if it's possible as you guys move forward in your discussions to just put together information, basic information on the financial performance of the golf course itself, essentially how much money has it been losing, so on and so forth over the past 3 or 4 years. I know it's in the financial records somewhere publicly, but it's kind of laborious to find. And I think that'd be a good point to include moving forward so we can have a better idea and make judgments based off numbers. That's all.
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem, Peter. We can, right, Arosh, we can get something, Jim, we can get something out there. So the public has some stuff. We'll get that prepared for the next meeting.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Anyone else from the audience of citizens? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and close that section of the meeting, and we'll just go on to our acceptance of our minutes from the April 1st meeting. If we have, I know they were sent to us ahead of time. If we've read through them, we can go ahead and take a motion to accept these in a second. Anyone can make a motion. Don't all rush with it at once.
Motion to approve the minutes as filed, Mark.
All right, thanks, Jim. We have a second on that?
Second.
All right, thank you. Any other comments or questions from anyone? If not, all is in favor? Aye.
Bye.
aye,
Any opposed? All right, so moved. So we will now go on to our presentation, or I think it was more of a Q&A, right? Arosh, we were gonna do, we had all received their, basically their presentation ahead of time and looked at it, and we'll go ahead and let them introduce themselves and take it from there.
Ed, I'm going to turn it over to you, Ed, and it might be helpful to give a little background, introduce your team if there's anybody else, and just talk briefly about your approach. All of them have seen your proposal. Encourage them to come prepared to ask questions. So hopefully we can keep this conversational, a discussion, and get all our questions answered. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Ed. You're on mute. You're on mute, Ed. Ed, I'm sorry, you're on mute. Unmute yourself, please. Should be on the bottom left corner.
Yeah, I thought you had me muted, so
No, you're good.
I got it. All right, thank you. The way we decided to do this in speaking with Arosh was to give you a formal proposal and have you review it and make this more of a Q&A session. And then, if you think you might, be interested in potentially pursuing it, we could always do a presentation at a later meeting if you'd like. But I thought this would be just giving you some general background on NGF and the process, and then, answering your questions. So I will give you some, by the way, my name is Ed Getherall, Director of Consulting. I've been with the National Golf Foundation for going on 21 years now. And our other principal, Richard Singer, is over 3 decades in NGF. So between us, we've seen a lot. I don't want to say we've seen it all, but we've seen a lot. And most of what we've done over the years has been with public agency work. So the NGF itself was founded in 85 years ago in Chicago by the Graffis, Herb and Joe Graffis brothers, as a nonprofit trade association to promote the game of golf. And it evolved over the years. And in 1981, the NGF became a major leader in the golf business with our Forum for Golf in Dallas, Texas. And later that kind of evolved into our annual Golf Business Symposium, which is extremely popular with all the CEOs and all the bigwigs in golf. We limit the attendance to 125 each year, and we probably have 5 times as many that want to come to that. Where our most important research is published and distributed annually: golf participation in the U.S., the future of public golf in America, Golf Industry Report, which has been renamed the Graffis Report in honor of our founders. And we basically become the trusted source for big businesses, or for the biggest businesses and organizations in golf, as a provider of accurate and objective measures on the game's health. We also have an industry research division, which is the recognized authority on golf consumer behavior and the business of golf. And some of their clients are the OEMs, as we call them, the original equipment manufacturers, such as Acushnet and Titleist, Acushnet and Ping and TaylorMade and Callaway. So, we're right at the top of the industry, and we work with some of the biggest groups in the industry. Specifically, NGF Consulting, Richard and I are the 2 principals, and we have support staff. Jody Riley is our consulting administrator. We have a group of subcontractors that have worked with us over the decades that are very trusted. We have access to the research department, as I mentioned, and also our golfer survey program, which we would intend to implement as part of this process, and we could talk about that. But I'll just quickly go over what I envision the scope to be based on conversations with Arosh. And it's essentially, the way we get the process started is obviously the kickoff meetings. And hopefully by the time, if we were hired, by the time this gets going, we could do it in person, and the world will be, almost back to normal. We could do this in person, which we haven't really been able to do for a little over a year now. So we would start off with kickoff meetings at City Hall, and then and also at the golf course itself. We basically spend a day or 2 at the golf course with a golf course architect, checking out the physical assets of the golf course, the agronomy, the condition of the bunkers, the tees, the fairways, the greens, and that'll help us put a capital plan together for you, a prioritized capital plan. And aside from the physical assessment is obviously the golf operations analysis. We want to look at your recent historical rounds played by type, capacity and utilization at different time periods of the day, the days of the week, months of the year. Your financial results, we'll take a deep dive into your profit and loss statements, your fees and your fee history, both daily fees and your annual passes. And I know you have, I think you have 10 play cards as well. Your market positioning in the context of your competitors, marketing and promotional activities, revenue center performance, such as merchandising, the driving range performance, food and beverage, how you're using technology. It's really become important in the game of golf, like it has, or in the business of golf, as it has in all aspects of life. Customer service protocols, programming, which again is very important, not just your standard one-on-one lessons, but specialized programming to draw more female players, to draw millennials, things like that. And it's basically a comprehensive operations review. We want to look for potential new revenue opportunities, whether that's through addition of amenities or enhancement of existing amenities, or simply, better use of best business practices in certain areas of the operation. Because, we have never seen a golf course that couldn't be improved in some way in terms of their operations and their facilities, even if it's a very well-run golf course. Part of the process is also public engagement. At a minimum, we'd like to do our golfer survey program to your email database. But we'd also like to talk to any groups, any clubs and organizations at the golf course, and whoever else in the community you'd like us to reach out to get their opinions on the golf course. In terms of our process, we stay, our objective is no surprises, and that's the credo we operate by. So we stay in frequent communication. After the initial kickoff meetings, we'll plan on doing bi-weekly meetings after that to tell you what we've done, where we are, and what the next steps in the process are. And the proposal is one thing, but sometimes we find that once we do the kickoff meeting, we're steered in another direction, and that's fine. We're used to that, and we're very flexible. So we want to just make sure, that we're not proposing what to do, that you're telling us what you want to have done. So we're very flexible in that regard. Depending on, if we were engaged, it would depend on the timing, but this process would generally be in the plus or minus 3-month range to get you a draft report. And then we turn it over to you. You'd pass it around for feedback and corrections and things like that. And hopefully within 2 weeks after that, we could turn the final report around to you and start talking about a final presentation. So I know that's a lot to absorb, but like I said, I thought I'd leave it mostly to Q&A for this meeting, and then maybe in the future we'll do a more formal presentation.
Okay, great, Ed. Well, I appreciate that, and thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate it,
Thank
and some great information you just gave us. So, folks in the meeting, you guys, questions for Ed? Now's the time. Whoever wants to start it off, please be my guest. Questions, comments? Just a couple that I guess I'll so you mentioned, just so we know, for the purposes of we'll probably have, as I mentioned, a second meeting after this, hopefully soon, maybe by the very end of May, or maybe the very beginning of June, and make some decisions. So let's just say the first week in June, we decide to go with you, Ed. What's the time frame that you could start? You said it's about a 3-month process to get to the draft, but when do you think you could start if we came to you in June and said, hey, we're ready?
Yeah, the day we're contracted, we would begin by sending you an information and data request. So that part would start immediately. These are the things that you can start pulling together for us. We don't need all of it in advance of the field visit. It's good to have for background, and so we could hit the ground running. But typically, if we got contracted, we would just start looking at dates immediately for, let's say for the next 2-week time period, 2 to 3 week time period after that for the field visit. And we could do some desktop work ahead of that, especially if the information can be disseminated to us quickly. We could, start putting the financial histories together and, reading up on the golf course, on your marketing programs, and your tee sheet utilization, things like that. So we hit the ground running, and then, within 2 to 3 weeks, expect to be on the ground. If you can accommodate that, and if we're living in a normal world by then, I think hopefully we will be.
Let's hope, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that. And the other thing you mentioned, which was nice to hear, was you've never met a golf course you couldn't improve on, right? So.
Yes, I think you'll find the professional fees well spent, and that's not to say all golf courses are mismanaged. It's just that we see things from the outside. Sometimes it takes an outside eye, and we see things that work at other places, and we're able to recommend some of those things. And so, sometimes it's just validating what some of your own staff at the golf course have been telling you over the years. I know a lot of times we're brought in and the manager, general manager, the head pro say, I've been telling them that for years. But, sometimes when it's a consultant that comes in from the outside, it carries a little more resonance. So it's a combination of new thinking and reinforcing some of what your staff already knows and is doing.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good to hear. Anyone else? You guys got comments and questions? Go ahead.
Mark?
Yeah.
Peter. I read the executive summaries of the two studies, Florida or Texas, and up the first one. Did any of those courses take your advice? And if so, what transpired? Is there a post-mortem on what went down?
Can you be more specific on the studies you're talking about? We worked a lot in Texas.
The first one was South Bend? And the second one was Texas. Tony,
Tony Butler Golf Course?
right.
Yeah, Tony Butler, that's the city of Harlingen. We were there, I guess, in late 2019, I guess. That's a border. That's probably a terrible example, but they are trying to follow advice. Their main problem there, it's a border city right near Brownsville. And their main problem was their golf course was shot. All their infrastructure was completely shot, their drainage, their irrigation, greens, everything. And our recommendations were for a massive overhaul, which was going to cost them, $5 or $6 million. And they just don't have any money. Their general fund, even pre-COVID, was in terrible shape. So they're still struggling with it. They've actually retained an architect and they're trying to do it on the cheap. They are trying to follow our recommendations, and they have followed our operation recommendations, and they've done a lot better in terms of their marketing and getting more of the tourists from South Padre Island and surrounding areas to come in and play there. But the courses are just in such poor condition that, that they, until they improve it, it's really it's a lost cause. Their only way they can stay in business is they have a lot of winter Texans, they call them, people that come down from up north in Canada. They come down to that area to winter in the RV parks and what have you. So that kind of saves them. One of the other, if you're looking at the proposal, maybe you're looking at a couple of the studies that we included in the proposal. Helena, Montana is a good example that they followed our advice to the T, Bill Roberts Golf Course, and they're doing terrific. Our study for them was a combination of an operations review and a feasibility study for redoing their clubhouse and adding simulators and adding gaming machines. And, they were in a neighborhood where there weren't a lot of restaurants around, and they were doing hardly any non-golf related restaurant business. And now they're killing it. They redid the clubhouse. They named it Munis. They embraced the fact they were a municipal course. They renamed the restaurant Munis, and they have leagues on the simulators that are sold out, 100% utilization. And they're drawing a lot of non-golf related lunch and dinner business. They're doing theme nights in the restaurant. And they followed a lot of our golf operational practices, and they've been going gangbusters since we were there. So we can't follow up on all our studies. That's something I wish we could do, is a little more before and after, but I will tell you, we do get a lot of referral business and a lot of repeat business. So I think that speaks to us, giving some valuable advice.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if I may,
Sure.
I don't know whether you can see it. There are folks who have their hands raised, the hand symbol. I can call them.
Sure.
Since it's up there. So Gail had her hand up first. So if you want to go first, Gail, then Seb, and then after that, Jim, so far.
Sure, thank you.
Hopefully we won't get disconnected here. We have one of our typical Florida thunderstorms rolling through.
Oh,
right
Oh,
now. Things are flickering a little bit.
so one of the things, I guess I'm looking a little at the process. One of the things you talk about is visioning for the golf course that you work with. Does the visioning come first in terms of, do you work with the town council and the golf commission that we need to come up with our vision first? Or does that come out of after you've done some work, to guide that process, and what is that process? Because one of our struggles, and I'm sure, and it's, you know, a struggle with many municipal golf courses, is financial viability versus town amenity, and how much town support, if any, a course should get. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, that's a great question and something we come up against in virtually every project. I mean, the answer is it's something we don't come up with a vision for you. We work with you and you know, we try and draw it out of what you want to be. But you mentioned the classic dichotomy. Are we a recreational amenity or are we a self-sustaining business? And I was on the phone all day with a current client with various city manager, assistant city manager, you know, four or five different phone calls. And they say, we want to elevate our golf course to the next level. We want to become a premium municipal golf course. But on the other hand, anytime a golfer complains about a price increase, it goes direct to City Hall, and the politicians bow down, and they don't want. And I'm being honest here. I'm a New Yorker, so this is the classic. The politicians are saying you have to sustain yourself, you have to be self-sustaining, but you can't raise green fees. And you know, they dictate, they put some handcuffs on the operation so that it can't be a business. And yet they don't want to treat it as a recreation amenity either, because they don't want to subsidize it. So it's like a Fisher cut bait type of situation. And this particular client, they're going to have to spend $4 or $5 million to elevate their golf. If they want it to be a premium golf course and reflect well on the city, they're going to have to spend money. And if they're going to spend that kind of money, they're going to have to allow market rates as well, so that they can recoup some of that money, you know, when they reach that higher level. So it really depends on what you want to be. A lot of municipalities say this is a recreation amenity. I don't care if we have to subsidize it for $200,000 a year. If we value it, it has value beyond the on-site finances. And then other municipalities say, no, this absolutely has to pay for itself. And if it doesn't, we need to start thinking about other things. So that's always the hardest decision, is what are we and what do we want to be? And it's always within the same community, there's differing opinions, and within the same councils and same commissions. So it's not an easy process.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Is it okay, Mr. Mayor, if I keep calling the names? Can I see the hands?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you,
All right.
Hiroshi.
Seb, you had your hand up, then it's Jim
Yeah.
Norton.
Yeah, I did. Thank you. Ed, in reference to some of the customers that you've already had, can you tell us a little bit of the city of Norwalk, Connecticut, and what happened there?
Yeah, that was about 5 or 6 years ago. I wasn't the lead on that one, but it was essentially a feasibility study for a driving range expansion. They wanted to double deck it and you know, make it upgraded technology and learning bays and everything else. And a big part of the problem there, we thought there would be a lot of demand, but it was, I mean, it was just solid granite, the site that they were looking at, and the blasting was going to be significant. It was just going to be a very expensive project. And it was one of those cases where we thought it would cash flow operationally for certain, but we didn't think it would be able to cover the debt, you know, the debt service associated with building it. And like I said, I wasn't the lead on that. I'm not sure if they went through with that. I don't think they went through with that. That wasn't really a full-scale operations review. That was more, you know, direct feasibility study for expanding the range and, you know, lighting it, you know, the whole shebang. It was just going to be a very expensive project that would have paid for itself over time, but you know, sometimes the payback could be many years depending on the cost, obviously.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that in doing a municipality and a private golf course, is there any common themes between both of them, or you know, because municipalities, you're dealing with funding from the city or the town. Private golf courses, you're dealing with the membership.
Yeah.
So is there anything that sticks out for municipalities other
Yeah.
than what you mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, 80% of our work is for municipalities. We probably only do 2 to 3 jobs a year for private clubs, and then we do 2 to 3 jobs a year maybe for privately owned public, you know, daily fee clubs. I would say, you know, the public agencies, Richard and I have more experience than anybody in the country, not bragging, but it's just true in working with the municipalities and and town councils and city councils and county commissions. And we know that balance between, there's always the balance between public policy and business. And I think we're good at straddling that line and being able to explain to people that may not be golfers or are more concerned with the public policy than they are the finances. I think we're very adept at explaining it in your own language. Private clubs can be very difficult because most of the boards are, you know, that they're either retired captains of industry or current captains of industry, and they all have differing opinions. And, you know, a lot of them generally don't have good views of consultants, to be honest. A lot of, you know, private club board members that we met along the way, they feel like they can solve their own problems. Why are we bringing somebody in from the outside? So it is certainly our preference to work with the public sector, to be honest with you.
You know, my last question that I have is that, you know, one of the things that concerned us is that this is like the prime time of golf. Right now, we're in the golf season. And I'm not sure what the timing is for, you know, if we do choose you as a consultant, whether or not the timing to come in, because right now I know our workers up there are really doing a job up there to keep the course in great shape. And it's the prime time. So
Yeah.
are you flexible with coming in, or is there months that you recommend coming in?
Well, it depends. Obviously, it depends on when the city, you know, when the city of Berlin needs the. Is it town or city? Am I saying it, or is it town?
The town.
Tom?
I'm sorry. So many clients, so many open projects right now. I can't keep things straight. But it's up to you guys. If you need to report by a certain time, obviously we need to get on the ground and see the golf course and spend a day, you know, a good solid day with your managing staff and tour the course with your superintendent. And obviously that's not as easily accommodated when the course is at its busiest. But it has to be done at some point. So it's either a matter of deferring it all the way to the, you know, when the fall, when the place slows down a little. So it would be, you know, summertime is, you know, if you're going to start in the summertime, it's going to be a little more difficult. But we're flexible when we're on the ground. I mean, we're not going to say the pro has to meet with us at, you know, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. You know, we're very flexible in terms of that. And maybe we could even, you know, switch days. One day we were going to go see competitive facilities. Maybe instead we switch days. So we are flexible when we're there. It's just going to be difficult to do it during peak season. Although, you know, we don't need massive amounts of their time in one sitting. I think if we spend a couple of hours with the GM and spend a couple hours touring the course with the superintendent, we could always do follow-up phone calls and what have you. So we're flexible. We'll make it work.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you.
Jim, you had your hand up after that, Mr. Paradis.
Good, thank you, Roche. How you doing, Ed? Yeah, we are, you know, I noticed that your proposal, you keep referring to us as a city. We are a town, so that's yeah. What is Northworth Park? That's also in the consumer survey in there. Is that one of your old clients?
Which one?
Northworth Park?
Oh, Illinois.
No, that's in our proposal, so you may want to clean that up before you get a contract written up.
Oh.
I'm a New Yorker too, so I'm gonna come right at you, so I really don't care. Let me ask you a question.
I put that together in about 20 minutes or half an hour, so I had to, I'm sorry for this mistake.
Yeah, considering COVID has been going on for the past, you know, 2 seasons, numbers are gonna be kind of skewed everywhere. And we all know that. I mean, you know, there's been a boom for golf because basically it's one of the only things that you can do. How are you gonna account for that going forward? Especially when people start going back to work and realistically, I can, you know, this is my opinion, just like everybody else's, but, you know, I see a hybrid model coming out with people working down the road. It'll never be going back to what it was, right? So, you know, how do you, what are your thoughts on that going forward?
Well, you know, our organization's kind of at the forefront of that COVID research, and I'll send you a link to, you know, all throughout 2020 and currently we have done a lot of, our research department's done a lot of consumer research, and nobody has a crystal ball, but the reason for the big, or one of the main reasons for the big lift in 2020, aside from no competition from other activities and the safe nature of it being outdoor, socially distant, was that, like you mentioned, people had more flexible work schedules. And a lot of core and avid golfers were able to play a lot more than they normally would. So in addition to core golfers playing more, you had new golfers and returning golfers. So even though a lot of courses were closed for about 5 weeks in March and April, we beat the previous year by 50 million rounds or so. It was just a perfect storm. I mean, nobody in the world could have predicted it. And I don't think anybody thinks that all of that is going to stick, all that extra demand. But it's all up to individual operators. The new faces that you saw in 2020, hopefully operators captured their information, captured their email addresses, and they're going to do all they can to make sure they come back again. What's inevitable that's going to drop off is when people go back to the office full time, and people have other activities they can now return to. There's certainly going to be some drop off. So 2020 was an anomaly, almost certainly, but it doesn't mean you have to return to 2019 levels. It should, hopefully it'll be somewhere in between.
The proposal that you came out, I mean, do you have anything, say, within the last, 1 or 2 years? I mean, I looked at some of that, it appeared to be a little bit older, some of that stuff. So have you done anything like in say last year, that you kind of update that proposal to us, something a little bit more current? Let's just say that much, because I looked at that, it was a couple of years back, 16, 18, 19.
Yeah, we were trying to match the scope to what was proposed for you, but we have 7 open projects right now and did plenty of work in 2020. I could send you a list of all 550 projects we've done if you'd like.
Just something a little bit more current, but as long as you say that, let me ask you a question, because we've had, a lot of us have been in business and dealt with a lot of consultants. So tell me about some of your failures and why they failed.
Failures, I would say, would be feasibility studies, and we haven't done a lot of new construction feasibility studies because there haven't been a lot of new golf courses built in the last 15 years. But back in I'd say in the late 90s, even early 2000s, we probably did some feasibility studies that ended up being, too rosy, because it was at the height of the golf market, the Tiger effect and everything else. And I know we did a couple of feasibility studies where the courses were built and they just didn't do nearly as well as we projected. But I wouldn't characterize any of our, operations review type work as failures. I mean, sometimes our advice is not necessarily implemented. It's not because people don't believe in it, but we've just found a lot of times with public sector clients that, the book will go on the shelf, so to speak, and they don't implement the recommendations right away. But I would say in a nutshell, our failures were, on feasibility work where the projections might have been too rosy, but, there hasn't been much of that in the recent past. And in fact, we have done a lot of acquisition feasibility studies where municipalities were considering purchasing privately owned courses. And I'd say probably 8 out of 10 of those, we've said, it's not going to pencil out. You shouldn't do it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Great. Jerry, you're up, Mr. Paradis.
Thank you. Ed, one of the areas that we seem to be really looking at as a problem area is the cost of maintenance. Will your proposal, I did go through it kind of quickly, but is one of the things that you do to compare the costs of current maintenance to an outsourcing model? Do you look at outsourcing as a viable option when you're doing these studies?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what the client tells us. I mean, sometimes up front they'll say that, outsourcing is not an option, don't even think about it, in which case we won't. But if it's on the table, we would discuss the various options such as outsourcing maintenance only, outsourcing the entire operation, fee for service management contract, multiple concessions. I mean, there's all kinds of models, or you can lease it too. If you don't have tax exempt debt in place, you could also lease it. So if you tell us everything's on the table, we'll try to, keep an open mind We do have contacts at Brightview and other maintenance companies that could probably give us a quote or give you a quote. As opposed to the cost of public labor, we can certainly have somebody contact you if that was something you were considering. And we could put a pro forma together under 2 different scenarios. For instance, this is what we think this would look like as a fee for service management a deal as opposed to the town employees. So yes, it depends. It all depends on your public policy. And, so the city that we work for right now, Port St. Lucie, said, no, it's not even a consideration. We don't contract out. So, don't even look at it. Just tell us how to do better with our employees.
Do you have any actual experiences with towns going from a unionized labor force to an outsourcing model?
Yeah, we have experience. I mean, there's no doubt you're going to have cost savings, but the variable that you can't predict is the condition of the golf course. We've seen some horror stories because let's say it's a fixed contract amount of $500,000 or $600,000, and all of a sudden they get on the ground and they find out it's a lot more. They really need more chemicals and fertilizers and this and that and the other. They still have to make their profit, so they might start cutting corners. So there's no easy button. I'm not saying that's the common outcome, but that could happen if you're on a fixed fee for the outsource arrangement, that all of a sudden they find out that it's a more difficult course to manage and it's costing them more. So they have to cut corners, and then the maintenance suffers. So I've seen it work well, and I've seen it work not so well.
Thank you.
Sure.
Great. Pete, you had your hand up. Mr.
I did.
DeFazio.
Thank you. Ed, thanks for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Sure.
The way we operate right now, we have a concessionaire who is not a town. So the restaurant, food and beverage is not town. They rent.
Is that food and beverage or for the pro shop?
Food and beverage and the pro shop, actually. The pro shop's a little bit different because there are stipends involved and things, but would you look at the whole operation, and would you consider, is part of your study to say, well, you know what, you should take the restaurant, the food and beverage in-house as a town and all that stuff? Do you look at everything as far as that? Because if you could benefit the restaurant, food and beverage operation considerably, and the only one benefiting is the person is the company that's paying the rent, right, for the restaurant, and the town foots the bill for a study that benefits a subcontractor. So how does that work?
Yeah, we look at everything, but obviously sometimes private contractors are not as forthcoming with for instance, if they don't have to, they generally are not going to share their expenses. Obviously, they have to share their revenues if they're on a percentage deal, but sometimes they're not so forthcoming with the expense side of the equation. And they typically they consider themselves a private business, so sometimes we meet some resistance on these jobs when there's a private concessionaire in place, especially if they have a contract that's not expiring anytime soon. If they do have a contract expiring soon, then, we rely on what you tell us about and we would do a golfer survey too. And a lot of information generally comes out. If golfers are dissatisfied with the food and beverage service, that'll typically come out in a survey. These are the types of things we could comment on. Obviously, just spending a day or two on the ground, it's hard for us to assess a private food and beverage operation to the level that we could if it was the town operating it. I would say it's uncommon for a municipality to take back a food and beverage operation. Normally, they would just try and find another vendor if they had an unsuccessful one, unless you have the expertise in town with town employees, or you feel like you could hire somebody to run the food and beverage operation. Do you have a contract coming due soon, or?
No. Who we have, everybody is very satisfied with who we have.
Oh.
He's very good. I was just asking the question, a lot of your study was around the food and beverage operation and all this other stuff. So that would take a lot of time away from the focus of stuff that the town can control.
No, I mean, the proposal is one thing, like I said, when we get on the ground, we sit down with you, the kickoff meetings, that's going to determine what our focus will be and where we spend our time.
Thank you.
So if the food and beverage is not a big part of your concern, we wouldn't spend a lot of time on it. Although it does have value just beyond the rent, obviously, if it keeps your golfers happy, then it's driving rounds played. So it's not just the direct revenue from the rent.
Right.
That you benefit from.
You do look at all amenities.
Yeah.
Correct?
Mhm. Correct.
Good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So I don't see any other hands up, but if you want to just raise your hand, I see Jimmy.
Jimmy with the Giants jersey. You got it?
Jimmy, please unmute yourself. It's on the bottom left-hand corner. There's an icon. You might want to unmute. Let me see if I can unmute you.
Did I get it?
Yes, you got it.
All right. Ed, how are you? This is
Good. Go Giants.
good. Have you been over to Timberland to see the outlet, the layout?
Yeah, it's probably been, time flies, but I'm guessing it's probably 8 or 10 years since I've been there. So it's been a while.
Okay. Yeah, because I think if you probably came in and looked at the layout, you probably give yourself a better idea where we really can stand, where we stand at, of how much it's going to cost us, and what's going to cost for this, and what's going to cost for that.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, that's part of the process. Obviously, we would come and tour the entire golf course, working with a golf course architect. And, we would look at everything, the condition of all the components, your agronomic condition, are there places where you can reduce turf to increase your maintenance efficiency and decrease your water costs? You have too many bunkers. I mean, we would look at all of that with a golf course architect for sure.
Okay.
You all set, Jimmy?
Yep. Thank you.
Right. Please mute yourself again. And Adana, you have your hand up, speech.
Thank you for your presentation, Ed. I just have a quick question for you. I would think that it would make sense for the study, if you will, or at least part of the analysis to be done when we are in the height of season. I know that the other night when I was listening to the videoing of the commission, they had mentioned off season because it was less busy. I'm tuned to doing it, I would think, during a busy season. You have an idea of when you think you'd like to look at and then now analyze the situation?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, earlier we talked, it's not ideal in terms of taking up staff time, the peak season, but it is ideal in terms of seeing the condition of the golf course when there's heavy play and talking to golfers. It is definitely advantageous to see it when it's thriving. So I think that outweighs, the staff having to set aside some time to meet with us when they have better things to do.
I definitely agree with you. Okay, the other question I had, and I apologize if sorry, I just touched the computer. If I missed this being asked already, will you be surveying any of the players, employees? You'll be doing all of that in some way, shape, or form in terms of what their thoughts or input is?
Yes, we'll spend a lot of time with key staff and with your concessionaire, hopefully. And as far as the golfers go, I'm assuming you have hopefully a robust email database. And we have what we call golf status or golfer satisfaction survey. It's quite comprehensive. It asks about all the satisfaction measures with respect to the different golf course components, with respect to service, with respect to food and beverage, ability to make a tee time. It's very comprehensive, and to that we can append custom questions that city staff and city officials can help us with. Issues that you really want to get to the core of, we would create custom questions and append it to the survey and distribute it via your email database. You could also put it on the city website. We'll create a link that you can put on your city website, et cetera.
Okay, and lastly, how long will this process take for you to do, a presentation to the commission and the council?
I would say from beginning to end, and the end being a presentation to council, I would say you're looking at, 14 to 16 weeks with the draft report delivered around, week 10 to 12, somewhere in there. And then refinement of the draft and then, getting ready to come up and do the council meeting.
Okay. All right, thank you for your answers.
Sure, thank you.
Anybody else? I don't see any hands up. You want to raise your manual hand? It's
Oh,
fine too.
Sorry.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I think this is it.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
if everyone's got their questions answered, that's great. So Ed, we appreciate it, your time.
We have
And,
one, we have one with,
I'm sorry, there's one
Yeah.
just popped
Down
up.
below.
Oh, go ahead, yeah.
Joe, go ahead.
Good evening, Ed. Thank you for joining us this evening. My question deals with the output report that we receive after you perform your evaluation and your analysis. Is it more of a report that here are the, let's say 15 things that we think need to occur at Timberland? Or is it broken up into different tiers where we say, if you do these 3 or 4 things, we think it's going to cost this much. That's the kind of improvement you'll see in your operating performance. If you expand that a little bit and open it up to say, incorporate 7 or 8 different items, it'll cost this much. This is the operating performance improvement you'll see. How does that, do you stratify it like that? Or you just say, here are 15 things, let's talk about the cost and how long it would take to implement each. And then we take it from there. How does that?
Yeah, good question. On the operation side, a lot of the best business practices will not require additional investment, or they may require only nominal investment. But we will prioritize them certainly. On the cap, if it's something like staffing, we say increase staff, then obviously we're going to put a number to that. And in terms of physical improvements, we're going to do an estimated cost, for construction or acquisition, whatever it may be. And, basically we're going to put an ROI to it, projected an ROI. If it's a major physical improvement that we're recommending, we say that, project the capital invest or the return on investment. For the operational recommendations, we basically assume that they're going to be implemented. I mean, we'll list them in order of importance, obviously. Some are going to be more important than others and more impactful than others. And we assume that those will be implemented, or the bulk of them, in the pro forma scenario. And then in another pro forma scenario, we assume as is. In other words, you don't really take any of these recommendations. And this is how we see the operation going forward, kind of as is without any major changes. And we'll compare that to a pro forma where you implement, the major operational recommendations and perhaps some capital spending as well. But we'll definitely prioritize it and list it by different functional area.
All right. And then thank you for that. Then my second and my last question, if you look at the past 4 or 5 years, you've had a certain number of clients that you've worked with. Some of those clients, I assume, have embraced all the recommendations that you've proposed. Other clients have only taken into account a certain number of those recommendations that you've made. Do you have any rough idea as to what that split was between clients that took all your recommendations and clients that perhaps only took part of your recommendations?
I think in most cases, the operational recommendations are implemented. Like they're generally cheaper and they're based on what we observe in the industry as best business practice. So I would say most clients will implement the operational recommendations. The capital recommendations is a whole nother a whole nother ball game, because you're talking about spending multiple millions of dollars and it has to be approved by council. And sometimes it's just it's a hard pill to swallow, even if the golf course infrastructure is shot. Sometimes it's really tough to pull the trigger on those types of recommendations. So I would say in terms of major capital improvements, it's probably 50-50 or less. But, the way we look at it, it's pay me now or pay me later. An irrigation system that is gone is going to have to, if you want to waste 20 hours of staff time a week fixing sprinkler leaks or burst pipes, when the maintenance crew should be doing something else. How long can that go on is what we like to say. So if they don't implement the major infrastructure improvements within a couple of years of when we tell them to, we know sooner or later if they're going to stay in business, they're going to have to do that.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I don't see any other hands. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ed, again, and we certainly appreciate your time. And just so you know, our next step, from what I'm thinking about here, is we're going to have another meeting, like I mentioned, in the next few weeks, and then we'll come to some decision, and we'll let you know.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate the time. I'll get that proposal cleaned up. Sorry for those mistakes. The little slow period we had in 2020 for a few months there is piling up on us. So they've just been slammed, but I apologize for those mistakes. I'll get that cleaned up, and Jim, I'll list some more of our more recent clients. Not with the same level of depth, but the type of study, the client and the year and things like that. And Mayor, I appreciate your time and everybody else's time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Others could stay on the line, please. Thank you. I think it's gone. Yeah.
So I figure we'll digest this a little bit. Obviously, he's going to give us a little bit more information, which will be great. So we can look to a meeting, maybe I don't know, Roche, what do we think, in the first week in June, maybe after Memorial Day? That makes sense.
Sounds good.
And then we could talk about this a little bit more in depth and see what we want to do. The only thing I noticed the other night, I just want to comment on this. I mean, we all know, right, that the other consultant pulled out, right?
No.
We all got that email. Did we send that out to Roche to everyone or no?
We just send it only to you.
Okay, so while we're here, we'll get that out there. So unfortunately, the other consultant had some family health issues. That was Mr. Grady, and he was the driving force really to, get his company into this space, and teach the young golfer and some other people there. But he just can't do it right now. And as he explained to us, family comes first. We certainly agree with that. And like I say, he has some family health issues, not himself, but his wife actually. So we're sorry to hear that. So he did pull out. So that's a moot point as far as consultants. We're left with one. But I got to say, ladies and gentlemen of the Golf Commission, I was a little upset at you voted, I guess, the first consultant down, if I'm correct, in a vote the other night. I thought this was a group effort. I thought we were going to listen to both consultants. I know it's moot with the first one, but for the sake of argument, hear me out. That we would have heard this gentleman, and we obviously heard the previous one. And after this meeting, as we will still do, we would get together and decide, if we want a consultant, or, and if we did, if one of the two was appropriate. So that's why we're together. We're together. I mean, I understand you could, you have your meetings, as do we on the council, but the golf course going forward was an issue that I think all decided it would be best handled by the council and the Golf Commission together. And certainly want to hear everybody's opinions and value all of them. But by taking a vote, already discounting the first one before we even heard the second one, that was to me a bit premature. And even if you all didn't agree with them, that's fine, but that's a discussion we all should have together. That's the purpose of these meetings. And, you know, I guess even a little more interesting, there were some comments. I don't think it was from the golf commission at the public meeting. I don't remember who made them, and it doesn't really matter, but I guess, you know, the old term, you get what you pay for, was floated out there. And, you know, I guess, you know, they were trying to build their business, and, you know, they admit they may have been free of charge to Berlin. And obviously they were somebody like that, hungry for business, looking for a job, you know, to get into another area for their company. I would imagine would do a good job, and you get what you pay for. I guess if we want to take that to heart, you know, myself on down, from the council to the Board of Finance to the Golf Commission to everybody that volunteers in Berlin, we do it for nothing. So I think we all do a great job. So, and I'm not saying that was any of you guys, but that did come from, I think, maybe some members of the public. And, you know, I mean, that was, you know, should have been part of the discussion that we all had before. I think you took a vote and discounted the first one. And you had your reasons, and they would have, you know, we could have discussed them together. But I hope going forward, let's keep it a group discussion. I want to hear everybody. I think it's important we talk together. I think it's important we meet and talk about something like that, because, you know, you might change my mind, I might change your mind as we go forward. So it's meant to be a joint effort, because I think it's important we do it that way. I think we all agree on that. If we don't, please, you know, let me know. But so I was a little disheartened to see that you took that action immediately before we even heard this presentation. So open for comments. What ladies and gentlemen, what do you think about that?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I don't believe we did take a vote. We just went around the table to get it, to just get people's initial opinions.
Okay.
Just like you would do on the council, you would go
Gotcha.
around and
Okay.
ask everybody's initial thought. There was no vote taken at all,
Okay.
because we
Eight-
still had another presenter and
8-1
another firm.
Wasn't it 8-1 against? No, did I not get that right? I'm sorry.
I don't remember. I don't
Okay.
remember a vote. If we did,
Okay.
then,
Okay.
but I think we just went around the room and just had an initial
fine.
opinion.
Right.
That was it.
But that's also recorded in the minutes.
Right, it is.
Mark, it is recorded in the minutes, and it
Okay.
was not unanimous. Believe me, it was not unanimous. And
Okay. Okay.
so
No,
we'll
it
just leave
wasn't.
at that.
I mean, some people wanted it and some people didn't think it was a good idea. So it was just
Yeah.
an opinion gathering
Yeah. And
roundtable.
that's fine. I just, you know, listen, I want it to be a group effort, right? I think it needs to be. We all have our own opinions, and I think you know, we value all of them. I do certainly, and I think all of us do. And you know, it's a difficult problem we're facing now, right? I mean, I'm not sure of the direction, and I know we all have our own opinions on what to do. So yeah, I think sometimes, and I think the last meeting too, it was the first one in public. It was a big forum. It was, you know, it's difficult to get down to the more personal level. I hope our next meeting, they are public meetings, and we certainly encourage the public to come. But I hope between the two of our groups here, the council and the golf commission, we could have some nice heart-to-heart discussions. It's hard in a big forum. I know that it's not really an easy place to do it, but let's try our best next time, you know, because we do need to make a decision on this. I don't want to hold this gentleman up, and if that's the way to go, you know, and I hate now that we have one choice. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? One choice? Should we try and find another one? I mean, if that's the choice, that's the choice. I mean, he certainly does seem to bring the credentials that he would be able to work with us, but I don't know. What do you think?
Donna has her hand up. Go ahead, Donna.
First of all, Mayor, I concur with everything that you've said. And Peter, I think I watched the video the other day, and I think that it was a vote, but maybe I missed it was-
Item six on the meeting minutes. I invite you all to read it. I just read them. There was no
Okay.
vote, Donna.
All right,
was just-
so I
it was
guess
just a-
people were
just an
saying
opinion
yay and
gathering
nay in
session.
terms of going forward with the people that were offering us for something that was free but not considered free, because nothing's for free. I just want to put that out there. It was a misunderstanding perhaps, but to me, it was clear that the majority of you, with the exception of maybe Jim, and I think there was one other that did not want to move forward with the gentleman that was looking to do free stuff. In any event, I think we need somebody else. I don't think we should be doing something with one person. This is a substantial amount of money for a study, for a consultation. And I think that we need to see if there's somebody else out there that's willing, now that we are down to just one, you know, to give us some sort of an idea of what the price would be. You know, you shop if you're going to remodel your kitchen, you know? So I think that we need one more price. Absolutely.
Donna, I'm going to ask the same question at our next golf commission meeting of what they thought of this presentation too. I mean,
Sure.
that's what we're supposed to do, right?
And,
So,
and
I mean,
excuse
no
me,
one discounted anything that we were going around and getting an opinion. That's it. There was no vote. That's it. So I really will ask that we don't put things before the cart, because we're going to do the same thing the next meeting for this company. And, you know, because this does cost a lot of money. You know,
absolutely.
so, and, you know, so I don't want it to be something that it wasn't. It was just an opinion gathering roundtable for each one, and we're going to do the same thing with this gentleman. And if we do a third or fourth, we'll do the same thing each time. Okay, so please don't.
That's fine. To me, it looked like it was a vote, and I don't know, Mark, you watched it too, and you've clarified that it was not a vote. And Peter, you can certainly put your 2 cents in too, and that's fine. But I think that we definitely need more than just one person to take a look at. And I don't know much about golf, so I can't begin to say that I do. But in any event, I look forward to, you know, the next time we have a go around of it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Donna. So while some of us are here, I mean, maybe it's a good time. I don't want to stretch this meeting out much, but since we are here,
Just a minute,
what is it?
sorry to interrupt you.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Rosso's got his hand up.
Yes, Peter, please.
I'm concerned that the golf commission is going to meet on this presentation and vote it up or down. And if they vote it down, then where are we all? I mean, I thought this was a committee where we're all supposed to meet. And I'm a little concerned that any action by the golf commission will put unfair light on this guy or any other individual who wants the job. I mean, I would urge the golf commission to just keep your powder dry and let's meet as a group. I mean, that's the whole purpose of this. I mean, if you don't want to meet as a group, the council can just do it. I don't think you want that. I don't think we want that. But let's try to cooperate here and have an outcome that's good for the town. Thank you.
Mr. Norton, Jim, you have your hand up.
Yeah, to all the members of the town council, you know, I agree with you that this is a joint effort between all of us on the commission and you, and it's for the town. And yes, that was our feelings on that, and probably should not have been taken, but it was. And so what happened at this point in time. Going forward, you're right. We should not discuss our feelings one way or another on the presentation that we had until we meet truly as a group. And that way, you know what, we can air it out, because I mean, we need to get everything on the table. And we need, and in fact, the fact of the matter is, and some people aren't going to want to hear this, but some people are too close, and everything has to be on the table. And that, I mean, that's my opinion. And I'm speaking as a taxpayer and as a citizen of the town. And I really am not just a golf commission member. And I think that's how we all have to look at this thing. And these are hard decisions, yes. And it's just what's best for the town and what's best for the taxpayers. And that's how I think we need to really approach this thing. So going forward, you know, in our meeting coming up at the golf commission, we shouldn't even address this thing. And it's just it's off the table at this, you know, I'm just going to say this out loud, keep it off the table. And that way there's no miscommunication, there's no misjudgment, and we'll just go forward.
Okay. Just on that point, I think Peter Rosso, you made a good point. You know, with social media the way it is today, So that's really, I think the crux of it is that if you guys, again, informal or formal, doesn't matter, but if it comes up, whether it comes up on the council or at the golf commission and we poo-poo this guy, in public, what happens. Oh, well, council doesn't want the consultant, it's over. So I think that is the danger of that, unfortunately. So if we can just, the council will certainly be cognizant of it, as I would hope the golf commission will, just to save this discussion for these joint meetings. I think it's better that way, that, I mean, we want the public to understand what's going on. And if they hear us, as a group together, I think that's better rather than information getting out there as it already has from I think, what was it? I think it was a council meeting where we were going to sell the golf course or wherever that came from. So the less of that we can have, the better, I think, for all of us. It makes our job a little bit easier, and it's not an easy job at all. So yeah, if we could keep from, sharing that until we're as a group, then that makes sense. Then we hopefully can come to some consensus on which way to go. So with that in mind,
Sorry again, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry to keep interrupting. I have two hands up. One is
Yes,
Gail.
absolutely.
Next
Absolutely.
is Nita,
Yes.
DeFazio. Gail, you go first, please. You're on mute. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so with that being said about looking for another potential consultant, what is going to be that process? Who's going to do that? What's the plan around that?
Good question.
I mean, this group is, has been around a while. I don't know if there are, I'm sure there are other groups out there, but who's tasked with that, and how are we going to come up with another consultant?
How did we find these two? I don't know how we came up with these two. Roche, do we know? Or Peter, do we know?
Well, this group, we Googled it. If you Google municipal golf courses, you get all their publications, everything they have done. So they were just picked up. I think Kevin Delaney, who works with me, helped me out with that.
Oh, okay.
So we could find another group like that. That's another option. The second one is to try to write an RFP, which is going to take a lot of time because everybody's busy.
Yeah.
So you can turn to the old Google and see, unless somebody has any recommendations.
Yeah, can I make a suggestion? This is Sebi. One of the things that we might want to consider is going to the CSGA in Rocky Hill and inquiring with them to see if they have any consultants that they could share with us. Because I know Keeney Park and there was one other course in Hartford, Goody, that basically had a consultant come in. So, if we reach out to either those two clubs or to the CSGA, they might be able to give us some names.
It's a great idea.
That's a great idea. That's great. Okay. Roche, you there?
Peter has Peter, you have your hand up.
I'm going to be real brief. Mr. Rosso, you're absolutely correct. And there is no one more excited than us to be working along with the council on this. Nobody wants to take charge of the commission. There's never an intention to take anything other than just to get some opinions before we meet as a group. So we will keep it under wraps. We'll meet here as a group. The opinions will be here and only here. And I'm 100% in agreement with that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Peter. So Arosh, can you or who, I don't know if you and Kevin did this, these last consultants, if you found them or wherever else did, could we go ahead and take those suggestions? I think those are good ones to find, ask some local organizations here to maybe get us one or two more, just so we can do some comparison. I think just having one now in the game, I don't think we're doing our due diligence to just to say, okay, here's the one, we're going to take it. You go, what do you guys think? You agree with that? Anybody disagree? Is that good? Okay. So what do you think, Arosh? Go ahead and look for another, at least one, maybe two. You know, maybe we could do 2 in 1 meeting if we get 2 others, just to move it along a little bit faster.
Sure, it's a terrific idea.
Okay, great. Well, that's great. So why don't we leave it at that? We'll let Arosh, if you can, and Kevin, and anybody else, you know, please, everybody pitch in if you have contacts or, you know, people you know, certainly Golf Commission, anyone, to find another consultant or 2 at the most. I don't think we need to overdo it. And if it's possible for that first meeting in June to get at least 1, if not both, maybe on the agenda, if that's possible, and hear their presentations. And then I think we at least would have a little bit more to discuss, and, you know, either choose 1 or none, or, you know, what we're going to do. But I think it would be helpful to hear at least another one or 2. So if we're agreed on that, and if, you know, anything else from anyone for tonight, we're good? Okay. So we'll go ahead and we'll pick a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Second. All right. Appreciate all those in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate
Good
it.
night, everyone.
See you
Thank
Good
tonight.
night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for setting this up, Arosh.
Good night.
Thank you.
Nice.
Aye.
Thanks, Rose. Thanks, Kate. Bye-bye.
Thank you.